Okay, so to make this very clear, your daily sodium intake should not be 1500, 2300 or 2400 milligrams. These are upper numbers, not numbers you should be trying to reach every day. And I want you to think about this like what happened with inflation. 2% was originally meant to be the ceiling and not a target they should reach. So, for example, if your groceries cost $100, at 2% inflation that becomes roughly $102. At 10% it becomes $110. That is 5 times the increase. And you don't look at that and say, well, inflation exists, so who cares how high it gets? Yet somehow with sodium, you hear sodium is essential and then treat 1500 or 2300 milligrams like something you should be aiming for. So somehow we have taken these high numbers and turned them into something you think you should be eating. You Google something completely normal, like how much salt can I eat per day? And immediately you see 1500, 2300, sometimes even 2400 milligrams. And those numbers usually even refer to sodium rather than the actual weight of salt. But the bigger problem I want to make you aware of here is that what you naturally think when you see them. You think, okay, apparently somewhere between 1500 and 2400 milligrams is how much sodium I'm supposed to eat every day. And no offense, but why wouldn't you? I mean, that is literally the answer being presented to you. I was the same. I thought, well, this is the number I can reach. So once you see those numbers often enough, they become your reference point. Suddenly 2000 milligrams sounds completely normal. 1500 sounds very low. And if I tell you that I eat somewhere between 400 and 800 milligrams on average per day, suddenly that sounds extreme. Now you are the one thinking, wait, is that even enough? Am I going to drop that if I eat that little for several days because I'm supposed to reach 1500? But those lower numbers are not extreme simply because you have been taught to think in the thousands. The amount your body actually needs is dramatically lower, somewhere in the hundreds of milligrams. But instead, the numbers constantly pushed by the food industry, AI, and many health agencies have become framed as something you should aim for. And I think a big part of the problem is that many of these institutions are now far too closely tied to corporations or similar structures. So again, as I like to say, it is completely backwards. Because what this does is change how you look at food. If 1500 or 2300 milligrams is sitting in your head as your daily allowance, then a meal containing 600 milligrams suddenly does not look that bad. You think, well, I still have plenty left. But plenty of what? For more salt? That way of thinking does not work well for you, but it works incredibly well for the processed food industry because their entire business is built around foods where huge amounts of sodium are already hidden in everyday products. You can easily eat 1500 or 2000 milligrams without ever putting salt on your food yourself. And then look at 2300 and think you're doing fine. That is exactly how you end up being misled. And this is also why I keep hearing people say, I reduced my salt and nothing happened, or but I'm eating healthy. It does not matter if the food looks healthy when it still is heavily processed. Your actual sodium intake never really comes down that way. It doesn't matter if you choose the salad with ready-made sauces and marinades, the Big Mac or sandwich, because the total sodium load can still be the same. And in some cases, the salad could even be the worst option. So realistically, considering where you are starting from, I think a great first target would be to get below 1000 milligrams of sodium per day. That still gives you some room to eat minimal processed foods you enjoy, while gradually moving towards mostly whole foods and treating heavily or ultra-processed foods as an occasional treat. So yes, sodium is essential, but essential does not mean you need thousands of milligrams of it every day. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!